What's going on, my babies? Welcome back to another episode of The Spiritual Word. As always, I apologize for any noises in the background in advance and anything of that nature. And before I start these off, I like to start these off with a disclaimer by stating that these are for entertainment purposes only and to always do your own research, to come to your own conclusions, to make your own decisions, to have your own answers, and I believe in your ability to do so and to be your own person. And in today's episode, I'm going to do I was checking the day. I'm going to do a last update on my 30-day challenge and tell you how everything went for me. And if you guys want the link to my Discord if you guys want the link to my Discord, it will be in the description of the video, and it will also be in the description of this podcast episode. And what I do is have a link to everything. All of my links are on my Instagram, so it'll just have my Instagram bio or my Instagram name. So with that being said, let's get into today's update. So I guess for the whole month, I'd say overall it was pretty good. I'd say that the last week was the most difficult, but let's go in week by week. First week, I did absolutely great. I was killing it. I did everything that I was supposed to do. I had a checklist every day, and I was completing every checklist. And then on top of that, I had no problems staying positive, and I felt really good. Week 2, I was also pretty good. Had a checklist, completed all the things that I had to do on my checklist, and also had no problems staying positive. The third week, I was struggling a little bit to stay positive, but I also completed my checklist, and overall, that week itself went fine. Like, I had no really big issues that week. Then the fourth week was the hardest for me, just because I had no checklist. I had nothing to distract me from my own internal battles that I deal with, and I had nothing to distract me from trying to stay positive or anything of that nature. Like, I had nothing to distract myself, and I think that's why I struggled. But I don't think that was a bad thing, because it showed me a lot about myself, and it showed me that I get my worth from certain things, and that I was distracting myself even with work. And then this week, I don't think that I'm having a hard time. I'd say that Monday was a little bit of a struggle, just because for some reason, like, my stuff wasn't uploading, and then when I went to go edit this video, instead of being taken horizontally, it came out vertically, and it just looked weird. So I just took that as, okay, I'm not going to upload today. I'm not going to stress myself out, especially because I couldn't just go back and re-record. And because I don't really like to re-record my content, just because it feels like it's not authentic, and I don't want these to be like a fake thing, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I don't like that people script their videos, and so in return, I don't script my videos, and because of that, I can't just re-record that episode. It becomes like a redo, in a sense. So I just didn't post Monday. And then, what's today? Wednesday? So yesterday, Tuesday, I had a pretty good day. I uploaded, and I felt really confident about that upload. It's been a long time since I felt like really sure about the things that I'm uploading and the things that I'm saying, and yesterday was one of those things that I was just on a roll about. So overall, I think that this month went well. And today I feel pretty good as well. Yesterday I got called back from a place that I applied to, and I feel really good overall about all of those things, just because, like, I know what I'm on track to do and what I'm on track for. And I have these goals in place, and I have all these things, so I feel like this year is going to be a really good year. And January was just the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this month went really well. and I feel like I'm on track to continue to do well and continue to be on top of my stuff. So, with that being said, I'm gonna jump into another topic just because I feel like I wanted to do an update, but I also want to do a regular episode. So, in yesterday's video, or yesterday's episode, I was talking about how to feel worthy and how to stop blocking your manifestations. And this is something that I've come to realize has had some type of effect on me. For a long time, or I don't want to say a long time just because it sounds like, oh my gosh, for the majority of my life, blah, 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 wah. It sounds like that. For a good portion of since 2019 to 2021, I had this mindset where I was like, oh, I'm gonna die alone. And people don't want to be around me and people don't want to be my friend. And just really self victimizing and stuff like that. And I was never really one of those people until I started to see the betrayal that was being done right in front of my face. And I've never been someone who even cared about that type of thing, just because I'm like, if you are really out here to get me, I'm really that bitch. You know what I mean? Like, you're really that obsessed with me that you're really gonna do those things. Then, I'm not even gonna trip about it. And that's how I've lived most of my life. Like, who cares if people are backstabbing me? Who cares if people are talking trash? Who cares if people don't want to be my friend? Who cares about whether or not people like me? I've always had that mentality up until 2019 to 21. And I don't know what shifted me. I think it was the people that I was around, the people that I was hanging out with, the people that I guess it was also partially me just because I never experienced that. So then I myself experienced that, if that makes sense. I never had that mentality, and then when I flipped it and did have that mentality, it was for the experience that it gave me. At least that's how I interpret it. That's how I interpret all of the things that I've ever done. I feel like the reason that I had that experience is because I was meant to experience that, meant to feel those things. And so from feeling those things, I realized why people get caught up in depression, anxiety, and all these other things. Just because, I myself never, ever, ever used to stutter. I used to never get nervous about things. I used to, never even say or or anything of that nature. Or, buffer phrases. I never had buffer phrases or buffers. And after experiencing that, I now have buffers. And I now have um, buffer phrases, and I stutter and I get nervous about things even though they're really nothing to be nervous about. Another example that I can give is I went to a interview a couple of weeks ago, and I was never somebody who was nervous at interviews, but this time I was nervous just because it was an out in the open interview where everybody could see you, all the other candidates, and I just that really got me. I was like, ew, that's weird. And I think that was one of the biggest things that was eye-opening for me. The knowing that people victimize themselves has always been really strong in my mentality, but that me going through that, it kind of proved that to me, but it also proved the effects that it has going forward. For example, if you are an alcoholic or something, you become an alcoholic, you have that that desire for that thing, but you can stop that desire. But regardless of whether you stop or not, you're still going to have an effect. The damage on your liver, or the damage that you do to your liver, doesn't go away. Or the damage that you have with your own body, that doesn't just disappear. And if it has the ability to reverse itself, it takes a little bit of time to heal those parts of you. And so I don't completely dismiss anything that comes out of pretty much anybody, just because I understand that it takes a certain thing to have that happen. For example, if you're depressed, something had to cause that. And it's not just you changing your mindset for the sake of changing your mindset. Most people don't choose to be depressed, you know what I mean? So I take everything that people say for face value just because that's the only thing that you have in the world. Like, I could tell you something, but regardless of whether I tell you that I'm telling the truth, it could be a lie. And so it doesn't really matter. The whatever I'm telling you doesn't really matter. Like, my intention behind what I'm saying doesn't really matter. And for that reason, I take everything face value. And so when people tell me that they're depressed, or people tell me that they're anxious, or that they have this or that, I take that for face value, and that's what I listen to. Like, that's my understanding of the situation. Same thing goes for if people tell me that they really care about me and blah blah blah. I take that for face value. And this is why I got into this victim state, just because I realized that I was letting people kind of play me. And I don't think that it was me letting them play me, more than I don't care what you do to me, because I know that karma will come around and you get what you give in this world. And if you're trying to cause me pain, I know that you're already in pain. So what's the point of causing more pain? If you're already under stress, you're already under pain. So what's the point of me trying to hurt you? You know what I mean? And because, like I said, karma is a bitch. I'm not going to hurt you because that's going to come back to me. And I think during this time where I got those feelings, I was doing really not so good things, to say the least, or to say the most not so good things. And on top of not doing good things, I was not aware of it. I wasn't conscious of the choices I was making, and then the choices that I was making weren't good. I would hurt people and not even know, and not even think that it's a problem. And just being awake to that truth in myself, I think it made me feel worse about myself in the victimizing stage of, like, my existence. But overall, it made me a better person, just because I understood more and more and more and more and more. Like, I expanded myself more and more and more. And I understood that even though I viewed myself as this bad person at those points and times, I was still achieving whatever I was trying to achieve. And during that time of my life, I spent a lot of time learning how to manifest, learning how to use energy. And during those times where I was learning those things, life was sending me a bunch of lessons. And I feel like they were lessons for my soul, or for my spirit, or for my consciousness. And every single time that I got a lesson, it was fucking hard, especially being in that state where I'm like, oh my god, everything's happening to me, not for me. And like, when it was really insightful to have that experience, just because I feel like I understand what being a human is more than I did without the pain. And I know that sounds really dumb, but I feel like I'm a little bit on the slow side, even though half the things that I talk about, most people commonly would not know. And because of that, I feel like it's also a part of me that's like, I refuse to believe that I'm better than anybody else, just because who the fuck am I? Like, you know what I mean? Even the person who we called Jesus was just a person. So that mixed with what I just said. So moving on from all those things, this is one of the huge reasons why I don't script what I talk about, just because I feel like the more, not raw, but the more not linear these are, I feel like the better they are. And I also realize that when people ask me questions, I never answer them like a normal person. And I think that that's not that it's a bad thing, but I think it's because my level of understanding is not where their level of understanding is. And so we have a hard time matching each other because I'm on this pitch and you're on this pitch. And when you ask me a question, we're going against each other. And so if you're asking me a question, but you're down here and I'm up here, I'm not going to understand it. So when I answer, I'm going to be here and you're going to be here. And so it's just not going to match up. And until we're like this, then it just doesn't work. And basically, if you're on the audio version of this, if I'm on a different like wave, if I'm riding a wave, if I'm a surfer riding a wave, we're not on the same wave until we actually physically are on the same wave. And that's what I mean by like I don't answer people's questions the way that they direct them towards me. Unless we're on the same level of understanding, then it does sound really clear and concise. Or unless we're on the same No, yeah, I guess that's right. We're on the same like wavelength. That's the best way that I could put it, or frequency. Like one time I was at a teaching at a Buddhist teaching, and one of the people that was also there asked a question, and when the teacher was answering the question, to me the answer made sense. But to many of the students, it did not make sense because it wasn't being directed towards the answer. And I feel like this is partially because just like I really find this interesting just because my ADHD kicking my ass today. But digress. So I feel like this is important just because if you do anything spiritual of that nature, most of your questions are not directly answered unless it's like a yes or no type of thing, unless you're in person with like a teacher, or like if you watch like people like Abraham Hicks or Dolores Cannon or Bashar doing a session, and when people ask them questions, they return those questions because they need to get specific into what you're actually trying to figure out or what you're lost about. And this is the same thing when I went to this Buddhist teaching. This person had the question, this teacher answered the question, but to the student, it didn't sound like an answer because it was more of like a beating around the bush type of thing. But it's not that we purposefully beat around the bush, it's that that's our answer. Because nothing is definitive in this world, so you have to define it with knowing the truth of nature and reality, which is that nothing is solidified. So if I give you an answer, even if it's a yes or no, it's still not solid. Just like if I told you I hate this pizza place, and then 3 years later I go to that pizza place because it's the closest one to my house. You know what I mean? Nothing is really that solid. And that has also enabled me to kind of change into morph into a different person every single day. And I think that that's also helped not only has it helped my like person, it's also helped my podcast just because I've been doing these for a couple years now. And every time that I listen to these back or I watch these back, it's like a different person. And it's a different way of looking at things. And I find all of these things really fascinating and intriguing. Which again is also another reason why I don't script these, because I want them to be genuine and I want them to come from me and not be a script done from some other thing. And I do see the power of having a script because if I have a good idea, I'll probably write it down. You know what I mean? Like if I go inside to my house or if I go to the store and I have some insightful moment, I'm probably going to write it down, but it's not going to be the full episode. And I think it's more exciting to see my genuine aspects, like the fact that I ramble so much and nothing that I say is like super duper clear, but it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I could tell you bones are hard and you're like, where did that come from? But it makes sense because it sounds accurate. even though we're a bunch of waves and vibrating atoms and stuff like that. Vibrating matter, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Don't come for me. But anyways, I spent 20 minutes rambling, so I'm just gonna end this here. And yeah, I hope that this was helpful in any way, shape, and form, or entertaining in any way, shape, and form. And as always, if you are a new or a returning baby, thanks for tuning in and tapping in. I appreciate you. I upload these on YouTube and anywhere you could find podcast audio versions. I upload a video version of this and an audio version of this. If you're interested in psychology, self-help, spirituality, science, and philosophy, I recommend subbing or following. That's pretty much the only things that I talk about. And yeah, thanks for tuning in and tapping in. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.